what would you say to encourage them to go long and keep building and be the CEO and founder in the center of it?
I'd say two things that at least matter to me. Number one, can you wake up every day and have the same level of energy, enthusiasm, fun? Work and fun and everything has to be correlated at this point, and there is just one life. That's it. You got one life. Can you kind of like mesh that thing together? Number one. And the people around you. These are the two things that matter to me. Am I having fun? Am I having fun with the people around me? If you're having a lot of issues with your co-founder or your management team and they think that you're an idiot or you think that they're idiots, then it's time to rethink what you're doing. I love the team that works with me, and hopefully they like working with me too. Are you personally are you in the game? Do you want to do this? And if those two things are true, then I'd say keep going. These two variables are not external, right? How you feel, what you're doing in the morning, how you show up all day, and then who you work with. These are not external. You control both these variables reasonably well.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast, where every week we hear an amazing story from a serious founder who built a valuable software company and did it without big funding. Today, my guest is Vivek Bhaskaran, the founder and CEO of QuestionPro. It's the second time he's been on the podcast. Vivek was on episode number 31 2 years ago. When he grew his company, he was headed towards 25 or 30 million bootstrapped. Now he's almost at 40 million, global, bootstrapped, market research, customer experience measurement, survey software for small businesses and medium-sized companies with a 300-person organization, no outside investors, profitable, growing, playing the AI game. And so Vivek talks about what it takes to be a happy, healthy CEO in his terms, to want to keep on doing it and building at that scale. A lot of founders can't even imagine what it looks like up there if you don't have investors and you're still going. And he explains what turns him on and why he's still going and why he gets offers and doesn't take them to sell the company. It's a great episode with my friend Vivek. Hey, Vivek, welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast again. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Greg.
Yes. We catch up once in a while. We caught up last month and had a great chat and said, gosh, it'd be great to bring you back on the podcast to give an update of what's going on in your growing bootstrap business. You were on episode number 31 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So you've grown since then. You haven't sold the company since then. And your business is now 25 years old. You bootstrap founder and CEO, right?
Right.
So you're going long here, and you don't have any gray hair yet, but maybe on the inside.
That's why I shave. That's why I shave, man. I mean, it's there. Don't worry, it's there.
Yeah. So I'm in Dallas this week. We were just talking about the lack of snow out west, so I'm not in Park City. Where are you right now?
I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area right now.
Yes.
So
A bootstrapper who fought his way back to California, right?
That's right. I'm back in California right now. I used to live in Austin, then I moved back to the Bay Area about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So I was in the Bay Area. I moved to Austin, then moved back. So long story, personal story, but that is what it is.
Right. So some people make their way back there. It's still a beautiful place, beautiful weather this time of year. The center of AI and VC funding, of course. But you're not doing the VC funded thing. Let's just start with your company, QuestionPro. Just tell us about that. We won't go into your whole story like we did on the previous podcast. We got some new topics to talk about, but for everybody's benefit, what is QuestionPro, and tell us about the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So we help employees, markets, and customers measure experiences. That's kind of our stated charter and goal. On the market side, we help companies do market research, consumer insights, and number two, second part of our business is customer experience, where people are trying to figure out how things are going operationally. Third part of our business is employee experience. So how CHROs are trying to figure out how employees feel about the company. So the way I think about it is how does the market think, how does the customers think, and how do employees think? So we help companies understand each of those three cohorts.
And another way to say this is you've got an amazing survey tool, right?
Yeah. It all started off with the survey tool, and then we've done a bunch of acquisitions and all that stuff. Now we do qualitative and quantitative and usability research. Then on the CX side, we have journey management and journey mapping, CX and that stuff, and then action planning and action management on the employee experience side. So it's, yeah, you're right. I started off as a core survey platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, 20 years I've not been doing the exact same thing. We've
Yeah.
actually been working. So
And the words are changed. You were a survey platform like SurveyMonkey
correct.
in the early days. Go to
Yep.
your website, sign up for cheap and free, and do all that
Yep.
thing. But you've evolved, and you're using bigger words, which means you're selling to bigger company experience,
Absolutely.
design, and journey
Yep. You
mapping.
got it.
And
You
yeah,
got it. You got it.
yeah.
It's a fact. Yeah. I mean, we're largely moved to the enterprise right now.
Okay, and I go to your website, and it's still there's posted prices. You got the free version
Yep.
of some of
Yep.
the things and the
Yep.
$99 version of things. You haven't moved up from the millions of free users and all that to super enterprise, high
Yeah, so I would say
ticket. Yeah.
middle market is a better way of describing it
Okay.
realistically. So we do have the free tier as well as that's our inbound funnel, to be blunt
Yeah.
about it. It's like, you need the inbound funnel. But that's about 20% of our business. But from a unit, I mean, just typical unit economics is like, 20% unit, but 80% of the traffic comes, but then 20% gives us the 80% of the revenue. So it's
Yeah.
standard operating procedure. So we kept the funnel alive. We kind of didn't say that we don't want the freemium users coming in because it helps with branding, it helps with
Yeah.
acquisition. I mean, our CAC goes down to nearly zero, and then the upside is kind of like as much as you can go on the other side. From a ARPU perspective, we are typically in the 30, 50K annualized range, not in the 300, 500
Yes.
annualized range. So that's why I say middle market. That's another way to describe it.
So, what can you say about the company, customers, regions, employees, revenues, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you want. See, I don't have a boss,
Okay.
so I can say. I
Yeah.
mean, no one can fire me. You and I have talked about it. I can't get
Yes.
fired, at least not
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, everything. So we are, from a revenue perspective, we are about $40 million in revenue all in. We went global. So we are in 12 different markets. US
With team members there and local
Yep,
products and
yeah,
everything. Yep.
boots on the ground. I mean, you want to do, even 50K, 80K deals, you got to have boots on the ground. You're not going to be able to sell even 30K, quite frankly, remotely. At least I've not been able to sell. Let's put it that way. I'm pretty sure other people can do it. So yeah, we went globally. We have teams in Latin America, Western Europe, which is UK, France, and Germany, and then Southern Europe, which is Italy, Spain, and Portugal, Middle East in Dubai, India.
Wow.
We've been in
Yeah.
India for a long time, and then Australia. So we've not gone to China or Japan, so it's too complicated. So we just stuck around with these things.
Yes, almost there. So, when you start, you're begging for customers and it's all about the product and let me do a demo and I swear it'll work and so forth. But you're at the size of company now where you could always start with the slide that says, how many global employees do you have now? Like
Yeah, about 300 and change. Yeah, so
over
300.
300
Yeah,
global
yeah,
employees,
yep.
12 different regions, tens of thousands of customers. How many surveys do you guys do a year through your
Yeah, about
platform? How many
about
whatever engagements
yeah,
or whatever?
yeah. So yeah, we just did it. We just did the thing for 2025. So we did about 140 million survey responses in 2025. So about almost 12 million a month, really, right?
Right.
So ballparkish, really, right? So
Wow.
that's kind of like total number of survey responses we've collected last year.
Wow. And your team is, I know there's maybe about half of it in India, like
Correct,
product
correct. A
and ops
lot of the
and
back office, a lot of the engineering. Obviously, the engineering is in India. Each of the market, the way we think about it, each of the market, the sales,
uh-huh,
marketing, and accounts run in market, right? So wherever, so
including
you
customer support and account management.
yeah, account management, but we have a centralized customer success function in India,
Mm, okay.
and centralized, obviously product and engineering in India, product ops, engineering out of India in Pune, and even in India we have a couple of offices in India, in Mohali in India. So in Mohali is not the city, and Pune in India.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of different places in India, and then also Latin America. We do a lot of kind of product UX out of Latin America too, because opportunistically we were selling in Latin America, and so we started kind of like scaling it up over there too. So we were just like, hey, we'll go wherever we can find talent and cost effectively, we do it.
Wow. And you've been going for 25 years. So like you did that whole, we talked about on the last podcast, coding it yourself, making the computer server to put in the garage to run the
Yep.
thing, to build the thing to go get a customer and do an SEO to go find it before SEO was cool. You've lived through all of those phases now, but you've got a bigger company, 300 plus employees, all these multi-region, multi-product, multi-office. It's a bigger company right now. How would you describe what phase of life this is? Is it look more like a $50 million company than a $20 million company, or what
Well,
would
I
you
want it to
say?
look like $100 million company, so that's
Yeah,
kind of like where I'm chasing. So I'll tell
it
you
looks
my
like a
chase.
$100 million company, except you don't have the throughput yet. Yeah.
Exactly. I want the throughput, right? So we
Okay.
do conferences, all the stuff, right? All the stuff that that a standard PE backed or kind of at the scale company will do. They run conference. We run user conferences. We do customer kind of events and all kinds of stuff from an acquisition perspective. Operating, you're right. We are a multi-product company, so we operate multiple different products. That creates its own set of challenges, and kind of having multiple product managers and kind of getting through the process. And frankly, I think, Greg, like my kind of viewpoint is it's an interesting challenge, right? I
Yeah.
personally, on a very personal level, like a lot of people like it, a lot of people don't like it. I love it, and it's a
Yeah.
different. I've been on the top for almost like you said 20 plus years, which means like I'm not doing the same thing. I'm doing different things every so often. So try to scale this. So my job right now is to scale it from 40 to 100, really. So that's kind of my job, literally. That's the way
Okay.
I look at my job. So what should I do to get it from 40 to 100? So obviously the things that I did, when I try to get from 10 to 40 is different than 40 to 100, clearly. So at least that's the way I think about it on a daily basis. And frankly, I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Greg, I can tell you I'm having a ton of fun. I love the team that I work with. I have a good group of management team, very smart, very driven, and they kind of believe. Hopefully, they believe in me and they believe in the company for sure. I think I believe in them. I love working with them, and so that's a huge part of kind of what we do. And the market is good. I mean, as much as we can talk about all the other things, though,
Yeah.
we're in a good market. The stuff that we do at its very core, everybody needs. Look, everybody needs feedback. Every company needs feedback one way or the other, right?
Right.
To understand what's going on, and that is a core construct that just not going to go away. Whether we do it in the form of surveys or qualitative research, all of those things, the core construct of feedback as humans in the employee setting and the customer setting and in the market setting, we need to understand what's going on. So I think that the core construct is there. So I'm pretty excited about it. So all right, the core construct is there. It's not going away. So and then of course there'll be the way we do it changes over time, and we're not dumb. We change over time too.
Yeah. So you like to change yourself, right? So you're not stuck on, I'm this kind of founder, and when it stops being that kind of game, I don't want to play anymore. You want to play a new kind of game, and maybe the faster those changes happen, the more fun you have. So you're kind of a glutton for punishment. What would you say is the challenge that you look at this year and say, well, I wasn't good at this, so I got to figure it out. It'll be a change for us. And, you as a CEO has to, do things differently. So what's one on your plate that you could describe that so people know what it feels like?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we are scaling, it's really high. Getting like really senior talent on board, really, right? People
Yeah.
that is the. I mean, I think as you correctly pointed out earlier on, product market fit is there. Marketing wise, we are getting, we don't have to go out and say like, hey, who are you? We don't have to explain that proposition anymore. I mean, obviously, as everybody who started a company knows, the first slide is like,
Yeah.
who the fuck are you? Right? Exactly. And you have to like, okay, let's start from the beginning and da 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 da. So that's good. That's why I'm really, really happy about it. Like, cause half the time I just struggled with that question, really, right? Like, so that's not there. But in terms of scaling, like, getting like really smart, ambitious, good people on board with the mission, that's the way I see my job really
Mhm.
right now. So I love sales. I could still go close a deal or two, but that's not
Yeah.
going to make a difference. So I spend a lot more of time trying kind of like, I think two parts. One, I still am pretty passionate about product actually. So I
Yeah.
love just
Good.
product is just, it's it feeds my soul. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
Maybe it's the right thing to do. Maybe it's the wrong thing to do. I actually don't even care. It's something that feeds my soul. I'll do it.
You own the company, so
Um,
you get to do some of what you want to do, right?
Exactly. It's part of
Yeah.
the perks of kind of like, I don't, part of the perks, literally. It is literally part of the perks. So it feeds my soul. Whether it's the right thing to do or wrong thing, I actually don't know. But from a kind of building perspective, I'm always looking for, smart people who can obviously come and help me scale. And at this level, we need people who understand systems, process, and are very, very capable on their own. So those are the kind of folks that I'm chasing after. Let's put it bluntly. And when I find people, I kind of go for them and try to recruit them and bring them on board, and then getting them execution also, right? That's also the second part of it. It's not, a lot of people can do a lot of things, but can they do it within this context and with this environment, right? So that's also there. So that's kind of like, that's part two of the same problem, is like not just acquiring amazing talent, but they should be able to function within the system too and actually deliver throughput. So those are my two kind of like primary jobs, and then
Right.
my fun job is really around the product side that I love doing.
That's great. So, the first senior management team is always a little challenge because the company is scrappy and you're looking for a company with experience and they don't want to be scrappy. And a lot of people make that misstep. And it's hard to find the unicorn that can be both strategic and get the stuff done in the scrap and help grow, pull up the company and so forth. But now you're around 40 million. You're an established player. And there's some complexities inside your business. It's not just, that people
Yep.
have to understand how everything's set up, the organization, product teams, and,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
non-trivial there.
Yep.
How do you think about hiring those leaders that hire everybody else on your senior leadership team? Do they have to have run that function in a much bigger company, or I don't
They
know?
should understand that function at a minimum really well. Maybe not. I'm not going after like somebody from very big, like Oracle guy that can come and help me really. And I think that has, at least for me, it has not worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need a much bigger system. Even 40 is too small for them
Yeah.
typically. And I look for like people who are like a little bit hands-on still,
Yeah.
not just completely like, hey man, I'll tell you what to do, and I can do PowerPoint decks, and that's about it. And even then, I need somebody to do a PowerPoint deck for me. So that's gonna,
There are people
um,
like that. Yes.
100%, dude. And so I think so my challenge has been like everybody says yes, yes, yes when you're talking to people. Yeah, I want to be hands-on. I want to do things. I want to move things. But on a practical level, not everybody actually wants to be hands-on,
Mhm.
get their hands dirty, do some of the dirty work. That's just the reality. So finding that, and then and then understanding that and getting that clear, because it's too difficult initially to truly get to that sense. So going back to your question, I think that has been my kind of like chase, is like people who've been there, done that, but also can actually really get their hands dirty, right?
How do you verify that? Because
I
people
don't. I
say
don't know.
that.
I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
boss,
Okay.
if you knew the answer to the question, let me know, bro. It's trial and error, dude. Literally, it's I mean, not fully trial and error, but I think we test for certain things around like, look, can you actually do certain things or not, really, right? For
Yeah.
everything, if you need help, I get frustrated. We are very, as a company, I do work. I
Yeah.
get into product. I can get into Figma. I'm not afraid of getting into Figma and doing
Yeah.
something, or even I don't open up a shell and write code anymore. But if you really push comes to shove, I can do it. But that's not what I'm expecting of anybody. But operationally, right? So you should
Yeah.
be able to get your hands dirty. So going back to your question, I don't know how to. I mean, obviously, as we talk, I get a sense of are they. What I'm really trying to figure out is yes, we need people who can speak about the larger point, speak eloquently, go on stage, do those things, but then turn around, a couple hours later and actually get there, do something about it. Put a deck, something as simple as put a deck together. Can you put a
Yeah. Yeah.
deck together all by yourself?
Yeah.
At least tell the story by yourself without, asking for like, hey, I need 2 designers and 3 marketers to put a deck together. And all right, fine. Then if you need that, then you should probably go work at SAP.
Yeah.
That's that. You get 3 people to put a deck together. We are not there yet, and maybe we never get there. Well, that's fine,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Well, we talked about this briefly on the podcast 2 years ago, but, you're a bootstrap company. You don't have outside investors. This isn't I mean, you're on a quest to grow the company and I guess someday sell it, like you said before, but how do you recruit people when you're not VC backed and, you don't have, sloshing money around, which attracts some types of talent there, but are you finding senior get it done talent that wants to work for a bootstrap company and doesn't want VCs in the building and they know the buck stops at the founder?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not as bad. No, I think the narrative is that everybody wants to work for, especially people who worked for these kind of companies. They
Yeah.
realize that
Grind.
it's got its own set of kind of issues, really, right? I think the group that I've kind of assembled, I think the one of the things that I give that I'm very particular about, and we fit. That's why we fit, is that we give a lot of look. I have autonomy. I'm a sitting guy, like I said, like I can't be fired, but I have autonomy. Part of the reason we all start companies is because of, frankly,
Yeah.
maybe money, but really autonomy. I really believe this. At least, I'll speak to myself.
I
about
agree with that.
myself, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So autonomy is a big part, and I want to. I think the team that we've assembled, I want to give that back, right, in a roundabout way, right? So yes, you don't get everything that that you can do whatever the hell you want, but you are kind of like, you have a lot of autonomy, and I always say this, like, do you trust other people's judgment? Everybody wants to delegate. You want to delegate things, work, but can you delegate judgment? All right, that's real autonomy if you think about it, right? Like, if I delegate judgment to you, and I can't my way. Everybody's smart in this game. Like, everybody is smart, right? If you and I are working together, and I can't delegate judgment to you, then you don't have autonomy. All right, that's the reality of let's assume that you and I are working together.
That's a great way to put it.
So the leaders that I have, they stick around with me, for autonomy, partly because I delegate judgment. I say, like, hey, you guys have to do it. We know where we need to go, but how we get there, not necessarily. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And you guys have to help me do it. You have to, get it done, frankly, also. So,
Yeah.
so I think that contract / that conversation helps a lot when you say, like, hey, I'm not bootstrapped. I'm bootstrapped versus I have a ton of money. I have, $150 million in my bank account. So, cool. You got 100 million in your bank account. All right, I'll join you. Okay, fair enough. That's one model. The other one is like, look, we're profitable. We're going to do what we need to do. I'm going to give you a piece of business or work or whatever it is, and you got to make this thing work. And if it doesn't work, kind of balls on you. If it works, hey man, you're the boss. I'll do both ways. And so I think that has, at least that model has worked for me very well. A lot of people grow in with me, and some people don't. Actually, I've had both kind of folks. People who've kind of said, like, okay, look, again, it requires like an internal reset where you say, like, look, what we did when we were a $10 million business is different than what we did when we were 20. What we were doing 30 and 50, really, right? So like, what we do, how we operate, the maturity level. Can we, mature ourselves is the big question without any external impetus / help. I believe we can. That's why I'm doing this, frankly, right? I believe I can kind of, I believe I can. And as you and I know, Greg, that there is no standardized playbook for anything, right? Everybody who tells you that is like, oh yeah, this is the way to do it. I'm like, okay, that's cute, but there is no standardized playbook. So we have some principles, we follow them, we kind of go forward, and then we kind of iterate on that. So that's the way I've done it, at least so far.
This podcast is sponsored by Fullscale. Fullscale gives you dedicated senior engineers in the Philippines who are vetted, employed, and supported by Fullscale. They integrate directly with your team so you can move fast and scale in days, not months. They have over 300 active engineers with a 95% retention rate who are trusted by companies across SaaS, fintech, healthcare, and enterprise. Fullscale founder Matt Watson joined us twice on this podcast to talk about his previous practical SaaS founder exits and how AI is changing product development right now. Head to fullscale.io/product-driven for a free copy of his best-selling book, Product Driven, with practical strategies to stop wasting dev cycles and build products customers actually love. Now back to the show. Well, for a sprawling business like this, multi-product, multi-region, all that, you sell to small businesses and you sell to enterprise, so different sales motions, multi-GTMs, you've set up a structure in your business. We have these products and we have these regions.
Yep.
You're responsible for this product. You're responsible for this region. You have structured this so you can give chunks of this that are definable, measurable, So that's probably been part of your superpower is, architecting the structure where autonomy can work.
Yeah. I'll give you how I did it. Like, pretty simple actually. Like, you have products and you have regions. I have
Okay.
leaders who own products, right? They own products across all regions,
Yeah.
columns, really, and rows, which is every region is a guy or a gal who owns a particular market. Sindhu owns Dubai, and Arti owns US, Andres
Yeah.
owns Latin America. That's it, and they lateralize across all products, really,
Yeah.
right? So, like, Andres' job is to sell everything that I make into Mexico and Latin America. That's it. And I don't
Yeah.
care, right? And then I have leaders on this side is like, okay, you got product one, you got product two, you got product three, you got product four, and I can keep expanding on this side, really, right? So that's kind of at least like my core framework, really, right, in terms of
Okay.
sales and go to market, really, right? The other thing that we did that actually worked out for us is the regional leaders own marketing for that region, really, right? So demand
Of
generation,
course.
really, right?
Yes.
So
Okay.
because, like, you can't have salespeople, give a quota to a person. And frankly, I stumbled into this model. I wish I could tell you I thought about this and I came up with it. I just stumbled into it, like all good things, right? Because we hired this guy, like, one day, this is way back when we decided, like, no, we should sell in Spanish. Like, half the planet speaks Spanish. We should sell in Spanish, like, literally, right? So we were in Seattle at the time, and then we hired this Andres is a very close friend of mine right now, but we hired this guy, Mexican American dude. He came in, he's like, bro, I speak Spanish. I will be our AE guy. Let's do this shit. Let's do it. And then we did it. And then after like a couple of months, he's like, dude, this makes no sense, right? We are trying to sell into Mexico from Seattle. Does that make sense to you? I'm like, bro, that makes no sense, right? So he's like, and so he's
Very
like, let me
strategic
go.
conversations here. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, dude, and then he's like, let me go down to Latin America. Let me go down to Mexico. Let me build a team. Let me just kind of like, let's start the motion. So he goes down there. But then I can't actually help him because, first of all, from a marketing perspective, I don't even speak Spanish.
Yes.
Like, literally, I don't speak Spanish. So physically, I can't do anything for him, right? I was like, dude, I am not going to do anything for you. You got to do everything by yourself. And that's when we unlocked it and said, like, look, marketing has to be owned by the country
Yeah.
manager, really. Like, if you're running that operation, you got to own the marketing. And so it was a language thing, but we applied that same, like, if
I get it.
every market has its own marketing kind of person. We do control some things. We control the brand. Like, you can't call it anything other than QuestionPro and all that stuff. We control certain. It's got to be blue, and you can't just make up. Your marketing guy cannot come up with an orange version of QuestionPro. So we have some guidelines, right? So guidelines around kind of brand guidelines and things like that. But like, demand generation, which is kind of the most important part of marketing, is demand generation. It's not just your brand; it's demand generation.
Yes.
And if they control demand generation, then they control their destiny, and they control their comp. Their comp is tied to gross revenue coming out of that region, and so that is the autonomy that I was talking about, right? So like, that's how we set it up. And on this side, the product, I kind of went down the route of hiring really amazing product leaders, and they're also tied on the revenue side, where they're like, okay, you own the revenue for your product across all regions, so they are like highly incentivized to kind of grow their product and so on. So at least that's the structure I put together, and then we have a separate structure on R&D and product development and all that stuff. So that's kind of the two. So it is sophisticated a little bit, but at least the sales and go to market side is not that complicated as much as people think it is. It's like once, and yes, there's even within there you can divide between commercial and enterprise. As you know, that we sell $1,000 license as well as a $100,000 license. So obviously there's a spread there, right? So that's the other vector that comes into this cube, I guess, to some extent.
Yes.
So,
Well, it's a beginning of the that you grew into, right? The natural thing that big companies have with multi-product, multi-region, and everything else. And then they have multi-CFOs who want to make sure that all of those commitments, the quotas of the regions add up to the quotas of the products, and the interlocking of spend and budgets. Do you do that? Do you ever use that word, interlock?
I mean, we don't have that level of sophistication.
Okay.
I think we may have to get there, but our sophistication right now, each of the geographic regions have a clear budget that, because they own the marketing and the demand generation, they own a top line and a bottom line. I mean, they get a budget for how much they can spend on sales and marketing, really, right?
Yeah.
And then me and my CEO/CFO, then we say, like, hey, we want to spend this much on R&D and sales, R&D rather, on this side. So that's a separate budget that we have. At the top line, we decide how much we want to spend on. So there's a little bit of like, little bit of negotiations, but the sales side we've got it pretty dialed in, but the product side we don't have it that dialed in. It's
Yeah.
like how much revenue, how many. Everybody's like, I need more engineering resources.
I
I mean,
know.
that's true. That is true for like no matter if you have single product or multi-product, everybody wants more engineering resources. That's kind of like true
More
forever.
salespeople, more engineering research. That's used to be what, VC was
Yep.
needed. VC funding was needed for is
Yep.
more
Yep.
of those things. Just add those. How do you think about investments? So you're profitable. So you could say we could be more profitable. We could
Yep.
spend more.
Yep.
You could raise money if you wanted to. You are allocating across products and regions and internal stuff and all of that. And now AI is in the mix in your business, in your products, in your competitors, so forth. But how do you think about investment and, what are your big initiatives, and do you get less profitable, do you get more profitable, or do you always, you know, create a bar for, margins and profitabilities? How do you think about how to add more or less to the fuel?
Yeah, I mean, I think throughout my career, I've kind of like, whether it's right or wrong, I'll just tell you my opinion. I've set the bar. I said like, look, 20% margins, whether you like it or not, I don't care. That's we have 80% we have 80% cash. That's the cash we got, and we spend that money we got. Okay, and my core theory is as follows, right? If I give you $100 and I ask you to do something, all right, let's say, hey, Greg, here's $100. Go buy me. Go do this thing.
Yeah.
Really, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. Go build
Yeah.
something.
Mhm.
I believe that if I give you $80, you could do the exact same thing. That's it.
Yes.
You don't need the
Okay.
last $20, honestly.
Right.
I believe this fundamentally from the bottom of my heart, right? If I give you $3,000 to buy this MacBook Pro, if I give you $2,600, you could buy a MacBook Pro for $2,600. You'll find a way. Relax. Or
Yeah.
maybe you buy like a 1-year-old MacBook Pro. Relax. Or
Yeah.
you find something, right? It's not always that you need the $3,000 to buy the MacBook Pro, right? Yeah, $3,000
Yeah.
would get you. You just walk into $3,000 is what. Let's assume you just walk into
Yeah.
the Apple Store. But if I give you $2,600, right, and say, hey, or $2,400 really, right? So $2,400, and say, okay, go. Can you do the same thing with $2,400 that you can do with $3,000? And my
Yeah.
core answer is actually you can, right? You just
Yeah.
have to be a little bit more resourceful, hustle a little bit harder, dig in a little bit more. You'll be able to do it, right? And so that's my theory around the 80-20 is like, look, don't tell me that you need $100K to run a conference. You could run the conference at $80,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, don't tell me that you need like $2 million. You could run the same thing for $1.6 million. Whatever the equation is. So
What an
I believe this
interesting
in
way
core
to think
level.
about it. I mean, I played the VC funding game. I played the Proctor Bootstrap game, and that's fundamentally the difference. Is they draw a line that says, no, we will have profits first, right, and
Yep.
solve for it. And there's a
Yep.
way to solve for it. And the constraint doesn't always, usually doesn't create a challenge. It's just a constraint that somebody put there, right? Founder
Yep. Yep.
says,
Yep.
and owner says, or the market says, or something like that. And the opposite of that, if there's no constraint, raise all you can, spend all you can, which happens in
Yep.
the VC funded land in boom times and so forth.
Yep.
Um, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be, uh, you know, 10 times the results with 10 times the investment. So
Yeah,
usually,
yeah, we know that. I mean,
right,
I've tried it also a couple of times, and I've kind of come back and I've gone back to my model, right? It's not that
right,
I've not tried it. I've tried it like I once put a sales team. I was like, I'm going
right.
to go all in, hire the right best
Yes,
people, just put a bunch of money into it, and then a lot of times like the external factors matter more than kind of what you do. Everybody thinks that you can put a model together in a spreadsheet and it's going to work. No, it's not. It's a fucking spreadsheet.
you're old enough to know. Yeah, just know that a spreadsheet is a wish or a reflection or something like
Yes,
that. You've learned
maybe
a lot of
guiding
lessons.
principles, like just
Yeah,
because your model says that you're going to make $485,000 in quarter 4.
yeah.
Yeah, you're going to make
I'm
485 grand
reminded
in
of
quarter 4.
Chris Savage, who was on the podcast a couple of years ago as well. He's probably headed up towards 100 million in revenue, bootstrapped with Wistia, the video
Yep,
hosting
yep,
and
yep,
marketing platform. And he talks about going long as a bootstrapper. He had some angel investors. He bought them out.
yep.
And so he's in Boston, and he said that he kind of took the bait finally. You're growing. You could grow faster if you did the funded playbook.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
people do this thing, do more experiments,
yep,
just do it, just do what everybody does. Just do the standard stuff, I guess.
yep,
And everything slowed down and got unprofitable. And as soon as he got the mentality gone, He and the co-founder said, "Stop that." They grew faster. They got way more profitable. The results turned up, right? Just the constraint, that was their natural DNA, and they kept growing. And literally, it's grown 3 or 4 or 5 times since then, very profitable. He also said that to go long this amount of time, you need to have profits in the business so the founder isn't investing for 20 years without having any return.
Yep.
The founder needs to have fun and like going to work. The founder needs to know that they're adding value there and, and enjoy the work, I guess, is the thing. Like, do you meet all those criteria that
Yeah, absolutely.
you're
I
making
100%
money,
agree.
you're having
I'm making
fun,
money.
learning
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah,
adding value?
doing what I want to do, right? I mean,
Yeah,
making partnerships and doing things that I really like doing, and no, I'm actually having fun, really, literally.
yes,
Like I could not, and I'm kind of deeply. I do a little bit of meditation and vipassana and all these things. It's like you have to live your life, right? If you
yeah,
always are chasing, it's kind of this is the core kind of Buddhist kind of modeling. Is like,
yes.
look, presence matters more than destination. Okay, so, and yes, we're all kind of chasing, and destination is good for, at least for me. Destination is good to kind of orient myself, right? And if
Mhm.
I'm not having fun every day, right? If I wake up in the morning and I feel shitty, and I mean, look, I live in Los Altos here in the Bay Area. I have friends of mine who dread their bi-weekly board meeting or monthly board meeting. I mean, literally, I have
With
friends of mine
investors,
who
I guess you'd say.
with
Yeah,
investors. So they
yeah,
dread it. I'm like, and I have to go and like, why the do you have to dread this? Like, why do you ever dread a meeting, right? If you are the CEO of a company, why do you have to dread anything? You're the captain. Why why are you dreading this,
yeah,
really, right?
yeah,
Uh, and if there's something wrong in my mind, there's something fundamentally wrong. If you say like, and I get it, like you can be nervous about something once in a while, like, but if it's gonna happen every month, every
yeah,
quarter, like, you're just like, okay, then there's something wrong. To me, at least, the way my brain says, like, there's something wrong. Stop doing it. Okay, no matter what, something's
yeah,
wrong. Life is too short, and to kind of continue grinding on doing something that you just absolutely hate, especially when you're taking all the risk of starting a company and doing all the stuff.
yes,
Like, the whole point is there, right? And so to me, like, having that, understanding that very clearly about yourself, and living your life as you want to live it, is probably the most important thing in my judgment, at least. And the company, like I said, I love doing product, so I'm going to do product. We don't have a CPO in this company. All right, I am the CPO of this
there we
company,
go.
and that's
Yeah,
it. That's
right.
it. And nobody can tell me. And if somebody comes and says, "Vivek, this is a dumb idea," I'm like, actually, no, it's not a dumb idea. It's actually a pretty brilliant idea. I love it, and I'm going to do it. so, so, um, and if you think about it, Greg, like, if you like doing something, you get better at it. You better
Yes,
at it. You like it goes. It's a cycle, really, right? And so I think that understanding that self-awareness should be there. Like, what do you love doing? You should keep doing that. And then, yeah, I mean, there are certain things that I don't like, ops and HR and all that stuff. Like, I know I don't like. And there's other people who love doing that,
yeah,
actually, right?
yeah,
I'm not passing judgment of whether it's a good or a bad idea. There are things that people like and that
yeah,
people absolutely love, and then people absolutely hate. So understand that. And then, like, okay, surround yourself with people who actually are on the opposite side of that spectrum, and say, like, and respect them. I love them. My CFO and COO, Kodo, is almost like a co-founder to me at this point. He's a very analytical guy, very operations driven, and I respect the shit out of him, really,
uh-huh,
right? So it's like, he's my guy. And we have both, divergent viewpoints on a lot of things,
yeah,
but we respect each other for those divergent viewpoints,
yes,
realistically, if you think about it, right? And it's not like
yeah,
my time, this thing. Yes, there are certain times we will get to a head, and then we'll say, like, okay, we got to make one call or the other, and we have the respect for each other to say,
right,
well, we got to make one call. Which one do we want to do? And one of us has to give in. That's it. And we strongly believe in the disagree and commit model. It's like, okay, we'll give in and not be a bitch about it. We'll actually lean
yeah,
into it, right?
mm,
Whichever direction we choose. And that is based on trust and kind of longevity. He's been with me for a long time, and we worked together for a long time. So we trust each other or understand each other. So that's kind of like that. That really, really helps. At least for me, it has been super, super, super helpful.
excellent. Well, yeah, if you're grinding away and it's absolutely no fun, people will sell their company before, but you solve for that. So let me just understand, or, for the founders who are listening here, when you
Mm.
say, I mean, it's a Friday, like I'm working, you're working, you're just on a
Yep.
customer call,
Yep.
and I think this is fun. Not everybody would. I respect that. But what is a fun day? Is it building stuff and customering stuff and helping with wicked problems and having a little time with your family and working out, or what do you mean by fun in a full day?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I'm home, I travel quite a bit, so we have markets, so I go meet the
Yes,
team
yeah. Travel the
across the
world.
globe, and when I'm like I said, like when I get super deep into product, and I think product innovation is a lot of fun for me, right?
Yeah.
Thinking through product and thinking what should we build, not just at a very broad level, but actually getting down to the details about we got a version
Yeah.
1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5.
Yeah.
This is how we get to this. Like, it's not just saying, hey, we
Uh-huh.
need to have AI. Okay, cool. What the does that mean? No.
We'll get
Yeah,
to that.
so
Yes, right, yeah.
yeah, so what does version 1 of AI adoption mean? What does version 2 of AI, version 3?
Mhm.
So to me, putting that roadmap together, putting those things together is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. And then on the other side, I love meeting the team. And whenever I travel, I meet the team. I spend time with them. That's a really fun kind of like I spend time with them. I don't spend time with them that often, so we run
Yeah.
conferences for each of these markets. But when I'm there, I'm very present. I'm hanging out with them, drinking, partying, whatever the hell they're doing. All that stuff. And then I also take a lot of some time. I used to not do this. Then for the last 5 years, it has been a great kind of mentally. It's been a great kind of changer for me. Whenever I travel, I take a couple of days off, and and this, I love motorcycle riding. So wherever I travel, I rent a motorcycle. Good news, everybody, you can rent a motorcycle almost anywhere on the planet today. So it's become a thing now. So whenever I travel, I rent a motorcycle for a couple of days. So if I'm going to go from Monday to Wednesday somewhere, I take the Thursday and Friday off, and Saturday, and then I futz around over there on a motorcycle,
And you just did
explore.
that in India, I saw.
Yep, I did that
Yep.
in India. I've done that in Saudi Arabia. I've done that in Egypt. I've done it in South Africa. Like, yeah, wherever I travel, I'm
Okay.
like, my new rules are like, because if you think about it, like when you travel, you'd go do the work and you just come. It's sterile, right? Like
Yeah.
you're in a conference room or some sterile
Yes.
environment all day, and then maybe dinner, which is also kind of sterile. I mean, yeah, you
Yeah.
go dinner, drinks, right? And then you kind of do a bunch of, kind of closed. I'm a very outdoors, I know, like outdoors is kind of my thing. So I don't get to go out. And getting the family out and all that stuff, we could do it separately. But this is our work trip, so I really the timing coordination is simply not going to work on a very practical level. So then I say like, oh, I can take the next, take the Friday off. That's it. I take off the Friday, and then I rent a motorcycle, and then I just take off, and then I go, earlier I go solo. So I'm like, I don't even care. Like, and with the
Right.
motorcycle, you can go almost. It's like exploring yourself. It's also very meditative for me personally, because in a
Yeah.
motorcycle, you're not on a phone call, you're not doing anything, you're just riding. You're riding in a new place, you're absorbing it. You can feel the heat, you can feel the temperature. It's like biking. You feel the place, right? You're not inside, and then you get to experience things you've never experienced. With a motorcycle, you can go almost anywhere, quite frankly, right? I mean, you can go off roading and do all kinds of shit, really, right? So you can experience things in a completely different way, not for a long period of time, maybe like 2 or 3 days, and then you come back, get off the motorcycle, get on the plane, bounce out. So I personally feel really good about it, right?
That's fun.
It has been a huge kind of like a mental uplift. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. So that
Yeah.
has been good for me.
That's great. Well, I think of all the, whatever, hundreds of international trips I did where you're in and out and don't work it all day and everybody thinks it's glamorous and, coach back and forth to Europe, a couple times a month. That's, not as glamorous. So I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a couple things here. AI is coming to your markets, to your products, to your business. At the same time, you're of a certain size and private equity is coming to offer you things, right? And,
Yep.
you know, um, so we'll talk about both of those. I guess we'll start with private equity and
Yep.
strategic acquisitions. People knock on your door and say, you want to sell your company. You haven't done it, obviously. Someday you said you probably will, right? You would get big enough or whatever, and you get tired or something, but you're not getting tired at this point. Have you explored selling the company, and
Yeah.
what did
Of
that feel
course.
like for a
Yeah. I
devout
mean, we were at. I
bootstrap
mean,
founder? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, when we, and you said that in one of your newsletters. Like, when you're at $10 million, you get pretty much most PE funds will kind of like pick up a company at $10 million, no matter
Yes.
what,
Uh-huh.
almost no matter what. At 3-5, they're still humming and hawing about it, and at 10, they're like, okay, good, this is time
It's
to
real.
get in, really,
Mhm.
right? It's real. And yeah, I mean, look, we've had M&A conversations since day zero. way back when back in 2009, when SurveyMonkey got bought out by Spectrum and Bain, the first guys they called us was us, because we were in Seattle, they were in Portland, so they asked the SurveyMonkey guys, hey, who else should we talk to? And they're like, dude, talk to the dudes in Seattle, just like 100 miles, 150 miles north. So yeah, I mean, I think when we were at 10, we had a couple of different options, but I think my recollection and my kind of model was that, yeah, I mean, yes, I get it. You get some cash off the table, but we were already profitable, and okay, yes, it'll be game changing amount of money.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna with you and say it's not game changing amount of money. It is game changing amount of money that I don't have to work, ever, I guess. But then also, we also looked at it and it's like, can we do the same thing? That's the key part that I kind of like internally asked my team. Right, what the PE company was going to do is like, okay, yeah, cash me out and everything, and then do not necessarily put a shitload of money on the maybe a little bit more money on the cap table, but really like operationalize our system and do a bunch of things to
change the business. Yeah, right.
Change the business, right?
Yeah.
And the question that I asked internally is like, why can't we do it ourselves? Right? We have to rethink our thinking, but can we do it ourselves?
Why don't we do that? Or take the piece of that we like, yeah.
Yeah, and we can do it. We can try it, right? And we did it. That's it. Simple, right? That's kind of like
acquiring products that you did.
Yeah,
right?
like acquisitions. Like, and most founders are like, we don't want to do any acquisitions. I've done like maybe 10 acquisitions so far.
Wow.
Small ones, not huge ones.
Yeah.
Some of them are very opportunistic. And the biggest one we've done, like, we bought a company from a private equity firm, actually, Bregal Sagemount. So we bought it from Bregal. They called me during the pandemic and said, like, Vivek, we think you should buy this company. I'm like, dude, I'm the bootstrap hustler and you're the $1 billion PE fund.
Right,
you want me to wire money to you? And, it worked out, right?
Yeah.
And it was a great experience. For me, it was a great experience going through the process. But we were on the other side. Okay, we can do it. And then you realize, like everything else, like you do it the first time, and it can be done. It's not rocket science. Doing an M&A is not rocket science.
By the way, right.
If they can do it, I can do it. That's my fundamental principle. If anybody else can do it, why can't I do it?
For 80 cents on the dollar, probably, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So I can, I think I'm going to take a bet with anybody, like, but that's kind of like, I get a lot of joy and energy about trying to do some new things, right? Like nobody's done it. I want to do it. Solo motorcycle and riding in India. Yeah. Is it risky? I mean, sure, but it's not that complicated once you get into it, right? So same thing, right? So that's kind of like this. That's the way I think about it. We are founders, right? If you think about it, we are founders. By definition, we are doing things that by the 1%. By definition, we are already in the 1% category. You're doing things that nobody else has done or nobody wants to do or are too scared of doing. Any one of those. Pick any of those kind of arguments, right? But the same can apply in 2 or 3 iterations, right? Like you've never done M&A. So what? You've never founded a company. You've never done M&A. You found a company. You did something. You could always do M&A, really, right? Yeah. And frankly, just like founding a company, there is no playbook. I've texted offers on WhatsApp and said, "This is my offer." I don't even have to put an LOI. It doesn't matter. This is my number. Take it or leave it. Right, so it can be done. There is no playbook to it, and so you look at it from a first principle perspective. Hey, when we acquired this, is this going to add to it? No, reduce from it? How do you feel about it? Can it work? And yes, a bunch of them fail too. Absolutely, right. I will tell you. Like it's not that everything that I've done has worked. It's just like everything else. As long as I'm 51%, I'm actually happy. I'm good with that. So we did a couple of M&A deals in 2020 that got us momentum, and then we started getting marketing momentum, and a whole bunch of things started falling in play. And momentum is momentum.
Yes.
Whether we get it through M&A, through organic, doesn't really matter. Like somehow we got momentum, and then once we got momentum, then we were able to attract better talent that again feeds itself, and then it kind of like helped us. So going back to your question, Greg, we had this option. I mean, we were at 10 to exit. I decided not to take that option, and I'm kind of, obviously, I'm happy that I'm really happy that we did not take that option. And you could even argue it took longer. Maybe if I'd gone down that path, we would have already been at 40 by now, right? I mean, that was like maybe in 2017, 18, right? So 18, so 7-8 years, really, right? So maybe we could have done faster. We could argue maybe in 4 years we would have got from 10 to 40. I don't know. Maybe in 5 years. It took me 8 years. Fine. I mean, I don't care. It's all right. It's not that I'm going anywhere.
Well, one of the things I'm seeing with AI, jaded the subject to the new shift that's coming, right? We've lived this long to live to this point to play this new game of obviously it's part of the playbooks of the investors who say I want to buy. I'm going to AI more things in the product and AI products and AI efficiencies and all the rest of that inside the business. So it's very practical for practical founders and all of that. I guess the first question, is it changing your market? Do your customers say, we're
There are
going to do this
conversations.
ourselves with AI, or we're going to build a tool with AI? I mean, is it changing with your competitors or your customers yet?
No, actually, on the we seldom have conversations like we can build this thing on our own with AI.
Okay,
Really,
right.
right? So people still want to, okay, maybe you want to build a survey tool on your own using AI, using Replit, go for it, maybe. But we are not selling to small companies. You're not, typically they're like, and I'm not convinced that you could Replit your way into building,
Yes.
a maybe an internal tool for some random use case, but an enterprise-wide use case for where 50, 80 of your researchers are going to use a platform. I mean, I'm at least I'm not sold on it yet.
Okay.
At least I'm so far nobody's come to me and said like, hey, I'm going to replit what you do. Let's put it that way, right? And okay, cool. So that's not at least that's not in the spectrum of conversations I've had. The conversations that almost everybody is having is, how are you going to help us with AI realistically, right? What kind of efficiencies can our researchers get by using your tool? So how can I infuse AI into use cases? And we're just, and to be honest, we're still finding different use cases. Some use cases work, some use cases don't work, and we're still in that stage of like which use cases are within our ecosystem are better off. I mean, there's a lot of bull talk, and then there's also like, Gartner and Forrester are more nowadays interested in like how has AI actually helped. When they're talking to software companies, they're actually wanting real use cases, not just like abstract conversations. Like, no, tell
Gartner
me
and
how.
Forrester are talking about real things that work.
They're trying at least, right? No, they're trying. And there's, because the last 2 years they've talked about this hype,
right?
Okay, and then now they're like, okay, how has that actually helped you?
Right.
Which customers actually, and show me the actual granular use case, right? Like,
well, this is an interesting puzzle, and the practical founders, CEOs in my CEO peer groups, I hear about this every month. They go out and ask their customers, what do you want? They could barely tell you what they wanted in the old days, the product to do, but they're more confused about what AI should do to help them using their products. How are you playing that conversation? Are you prototyping things and saying,
correct, exactly. We cannot go to customers like, hey, what do you want? Because it's too big of a leap for them to tell us, really. Right? What we do now is that we will build an AI kind of infusion. We call it AI infusion, some workflow that we kind of AI enable something. And then we take it to them and say, hey, can you guys use this? What do you think about this? Right? So that at least they get the first step out. Right? And even there, I would argue, 50% of the time, they're like, we kind of use it, but it's not there. We don't know how to kind of use it. We just look at usage of that AI adoption, really, right? Okay. In some cases, it's actually good. Some cases, it's not good. I'll give you a quick example. Like, we kind of built a tool where, like, you don't, even creation of the survey, you can just talk to the agent, and it'll create the survey for you. Okay, let's put it that way. We got today like a simple use case, which is like a point and click interface. We're converting a point and click interface to like a conversational interface for the creation of a survey. Okay, it has not worked. People are like, dude, we tried to do it, but it's actually easier for me to just point and click and do it than talk to the agent and let it do it. Okay. Now you could argue our agent today, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but at least that use case.
Or they're not in the habit of it yet. We haven't learned this process.
There are lots of variables here, right? If you unpack this, there are lots of variables. And so, okay, so that was a fail, really, right? But there are other cases where, like, when somebody gives you bad feedback, we automatically classify it into one of the categories, automatically reply to one of those categories, and automatically escalate it, right? Yeah. So that's another use case, right? So we built that, and that has been widely adopted. Okay, so we built both systems. And one didn't get adopted, one got adopted. So because that use case made more sense to our customers than this use case, really, right? So that's what we are doing across the entire across all workflows. We're gonna launch a few use cases, see, and then and work with them, and hopefully we get some traction. And if not, we shelf it. We can live to fight another day, try something else. But the ones that are working, we can obviously continue investing into that and doing more of that.
What can you say that you've made measurable progress on, right? It's advanced a little bit in delivering code and quality roadmap faster, or efficiencies in customer support, or, agents that run processes, are you going to be able to double your business without doubling your employees? Are you finding
Yeah. Yeah, I think
strategic
on
efficiencies,
the
I guess you'd
sales
say?
side,
Yeah.
I'll give you the best example I've
Oh,
had.
great.
On the sales side, it's the go-to-market side. RFPs, SOC 2
Oh,
compliant conversations, dude,
oh,
that is like painful stuff. You know it, and I know it.
yeah.
Anybody who's been in SaaS sales knows it. All right. You could not be in SaaS sales and not know the pain. And everybody understands the pain, right? When you are asked to fill out an 874 slide page, whatever it is, right? 15 tabs on the spreadsheet. And, and that can be completely automated, dude. That can be like,
Yeah.
look, and we built an internal tool based on all our stuff. And there are like external tools also available, but it's kind of
Yeah.
like reasonably straightforward. We really call it RFP Buddy. So it's my buddy for my RFP, and the thing will just do 79% of the work, and they're done. Really,
It's probably
right?
more
So
accurate than a salesperson who just started
honestly,
filling in
yes,
the
yes.
form.
This is
Right.
one
Yeah.
of the use cases where I would argue, like, dude, I even don't want you to fill it out because you're just not in the game, bro. You
Yeah,
just,
you don't know 700, questions about our product yet.
think about it. Like, I mean, these spreadsheets, you know it, and I know it,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Like, we've had spreadsheets with like 15 tabs, and each with 250 rows.
Yeah.
Okay. How is somebody expected to fill that out and not take 2 months? Like, if you actually diligently do every single row, right? It's just like, astronomically,
Yeah.
crazy. And
Yeah.
so I think on the sales side, we've adopted that. The team loves it. It's working really well. So that's one use case that I would say is like high efficiency gain realistically, right? Customer success, I mean, I think their internal tools are there, but still we are still kind of leaning in on, because kind of our market segment is also reasonably high. So I actually, from a practical perspective, I don't want our customers to just talk to a bot, really, right?
You'd rather talk to them. Yeah, if you could.
I'd rather
Yeah.
talk to them straight up, like, dude, you know what? And that's the reason why our customers like us and love us is like because I
It's
don't
on your
want to
homepage. We actually
Yeah.
talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So like we actually talk to you. Yeah, it's simple, right? That's our brand, and we are leaning into it, and we think that that's the right way to do it. But then obviously the agents use tools internally to kind of like accelerate their execution. That's it, really,
Yeah.
right? Accelerate their execution. And then on the engineering side, obviously we are kind of like unit test cases and things like that. Like on the engineering side, like okay, look, you know what, there's lots of speed. We've still not gone into like hardcore like look, I'm going to wipe code the whole solution. I don't think we are there. At least we've not been able to do it.
Yeah.
In terms of the entire solution itself, it's like a copilot. The copilot model has been working for things like unit tests and extensions and things like that. So that thing is working pretty well. And we already had moved away from like a separate QA team, honestly, because I moved QA into kind of like automated QA internally as part of the engineering process way back when. Even before AI came, I was kind of moving away from having a separate QA team.
The engineer founder put the foot down and said, "We will not have a QA department that cleans up your work." Come on.
Dude, you know this. Dude,
Yeah,
you know this
I know.
really well. You know this inside out.
25 years with this problem. So yes.
There we go. I put the foot down, bro.
I know.
I put the foot down. I said, it.
Yeah. So founder mode, looking forward here. How would you answer this sentence? I've been in this business for 25 years. We built a big company. We're still small enough to be nimble. I'm still chief product officer. I'm really excited about AI. And in 3 years, I think this will be the big thing that we will do with AI, right? I don't know. What's in your vision, what do you think the impact of the modern AI LLMs, and on your business or your product or something? What do you think the big story is going to be in a few years for your business?
I think it's for us, it's going to be what, at least in the market research world, what's called synthetic data. If you think about it, like a lot of market research is like, ultimately what comes down to is like, look, Apple wants to design the new AirPod. They do some research, like, hey, should we call it AirPods or AirPods 2, whatever it is.
Right.
That's like a simple example, really, right?
Right.
And so they want to understand how people think about it, the messaging, the marketing around it, right? And so you could have synthetic respondents, that are fairly accurate, right? That are fairly educated, and say like, look, I actually don't want to talk to human beings about this new fucking AirPod.
Yeah.
I want to know if, at least the first level, really, right? The first level. And it's already happening. So the way we are positioning ourselves is like, if you want to do research, like exploratory research. You don't even know what you kind of you just want to know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. Instead of going that deep into it, every single conversation. So you can have hundreds of synthetic twins and say, like, you can ask these guys, like, look, what do you think about this? And you get some data back, right? And that can be
Right.
done in 18 seconds, really, right? You don't have to kind of like even think about it too hard. And that gives you some input to make a
Right.
decision. And that's like, okay, this is kind of like interesting. You'd realize you're not faking yourself. You're not asking
Right.
you're not asking 1,000 real human beings. You're asking 1,000 personas
Right.
about, hey, what do you think about if I were to make this thing pink, what would happen? Okay, or if I made the airport pink, if I launched a pink airport, what do you
So
think?
the difference between sitting around a table and making a decision and asking 1,000 people to get objective data, there's something in between that you could get
Correct.
something reasonable that would be better than a guess around the table,
Correct.
but not
Correct. And we call it
perfectly.
synthetic data. Exactly.
Yeah.
We call it synthetic data,
Yeah,
right?
I love
Synthetic
that.
respondent. You can call it synthetic respondents. Some people call it synthetic
So you can
respondents. Some
actually
people
change the market research
process.
process. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Wow.
believe this. I believe like in
Yeah.
3 to 5 years, people are not just right now. It's like, hey, it's what Greg and the guy who's got the page, who's got the checkbook things
Yeah.
should do. Because the leap is too big, right? Leap is like, oh, let's commission a study. It's going to take,
Right.
2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to cost us 10 grand, 20 grand to do it. So it's more the timing. It's not even the 20K. It's like, it's more like, dude, I want to make a decision.
Just for the thousands of decisions that don't get any validation or research.
Correct. And
The
so
market.
you could now, even today, quite frankly, the quality of that is not going to be great, but, at least you could get some level of kind of external input within 37 seconds saying that, hey,
Yeah.
look, if you launch the, pink AirPod, here's the expected outcome based on
Yeah.
this kind of, based on this models. And that's better than deterministic. It's undeterministic. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
based on
Yeah.
LLMs and that what you feed into the context of each of the personas of the LLMs. That's where. So my biggest thing is like, it's not about the LLMs, but it's what goes into creating those personas. Right,
Mhm.
the context that goes into the personas. That's the key part, right? So you can create, even today, you could create 7,000 personas easily.
Right. Uh-huh.
But each of those personas, you have to give it a different kind of source of data. You have to give it some source of data. You can't just so what have they purchased, or what have they said, or what are they doing? One of the three things that creates that persona, right? So that's what I'm focused on. So I think that having that data set, it's not the 1,000 personas that's the problem. Is what goes into each of those 1,000 personas to create those 1,000 personas.
Right.
Creating 1,000 personas is actually not that complicated today.
Yes, right.
Even today, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not rocket science, realistically. But what is hard to even today is like, how are you going to create those 1,000 personas, or 10,000, or 1,000,000 personas, and what is the data that goes into creating that
Mhm.
million personas that you just created, and where are you getting the data? How are you getting the data? What is going into that? That is what I'm trying to solve for right now.
Yeah,
Let's put it
that's
that way.
really
And
interesting.
that is going to be mainstream in going back to your point. That's what I believe is going to be mainstream on our side of the business.
Yeah. One of the things that, a lot of founders say I'm going to get to 5 million or 10 million. I'm going to sell it. I don't want to have all those people and do the rigmarole and, big budgets and, a different role for me and so forth. But you've hung on to the product, visionary thing. But what I tell them, I've been through this, you're going through it. When you are a product leader and a business leader of a global scale business, you can move the market, finally. You can move how the
Yes.
market thinks, you can
Yep.
move what the product is, and you could probably move it with your nimbleness and founder connection to the product problem, probably more than $1 billion company, where there's a bunch of executives who do, have people do their PowerPoints and all the rest
Yep.
of that. So I think that's one of the advantages of going long is, maybe not forever, but like you have a global organization and still the founder savvy to do some really important things for your whole market,
Yeah,
right?
for our
Put it
customers.
down
I
your
really
market.
believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
customers. I mean, I think the way I think about it is like, look, I'm serving my customers. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? I want our customers to do things
Imagine
faster,
that.
better, cheaper. Really simple. That's it. That's how I get paid. That's literally my job, really, right?
Yeah.
And like I said earlier on, like I'm passionate about solving interesting problems. I mean, that's why we're
Yeah.
engineers. We solve interesting
Yes.
problems, and with the market, and that's the difference. Like, I mean, there are a lot of people. Like, I've solved interesting problems when I was making 200K. but nobody
Yeah.
gave it. That's the reality. Boss, you could solve really interesting problems when you're making 200 grand. It's like, okay, nobody gives a really, right?
Yes.
But when you're making, 20 million, it's, people do give a then
Yeah.
people notice and plus you have distribution. Then you can say like the problem I solved actually can be used.
Yes.
Yeah,
And there it
that's it.
is. Right.
Yeah,
You make it, it comes
it,
around. And then a
yeah,
whole crowd of people, the whole
yeah,
audience says, you changed the way we work.
something,
That's amazing.
something, and I get a tremendous amount of joy. Like when our customers come and say, like, dude, this thing made my life easier.
Yes.
That's it. And it made my life easier. I'm like, great. That's what we need to do. We need to make our customers' lives easier. That's
Yeah.
literally what software is supposed to do, right? Like if you think about it, like make it, and yes, we wanted to, we built this dashboard thing there, and we automatically create the dashboards for you. Great. That's one step in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
And then now we'll start automatically take some actions on behalf of you. That's another step. So it's to me, it's an evolving, iterating process. Every time I see complicated problems, I'm like, okay, cool. Now we can solve this problem, and we have the scale today to do the distribution. That is what gives me tremendous joy, right? Like I've built all kinds of stuff throughout my life, right? Like I'm an engineer, I'm a product guy, so I come up with dumb ideas every 3 days after I'm high or drunk or both. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So now I can actually take those ideas to market at some scale. So that is what drives me personally. Like, okay, I can actually take it to market and push. And if fails, that's fine. It's fine. Then my idea was stupid. Fine, I get it. Not but some of the ones that are good or at least do work, then it actually moves into the market. So I'm that gives me personal level, it gives me tremendous joy, and I'm happy about it, and the rest just follows.
Yeah. And when you go into a room in Dubai and you're the founder of this company and you talk to them 2 years ago and they say, we told you we had this problem, you guys did this, and you come back and they shake your hand and say, really, thank you. You helped change our business and it had this impact on our business and my career went up or whatever, all that kind of stuff. It's really amazing what, the problems in the world that software can help solve, and we can make the magic happen. So great for you. So as we finish up here, final thoughts here. I know you're going to continue to have fun and solve problems and experiment in the AI world there. What advice do you have for practical founders that get, say, above 10 million ARR and are thinking, do I go longer? It doesn't look like any fun at 40 million. Maybe they're talking to all their VC funded founder friends or something like that. But what would you say to encourage them to, go long and keep building and, be the CEO and founder in the center of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think two things, right? I'd say two things that at least matter to me. Number one, can you wake up every day and have the same level of energy, enthusiasm, fun, however you want to describe it, right? Like work and fun and everything has to be correlated at this point, and there is just one life. That's it. You got one life. Can you kind of like mesh that thing together? Number one, and the people around you, really, right? These are the two things that matter to me, really, right? Am I having fun? Am I having fun with the people around me? Are they? If you're having a lot of issues with your co-founder or your management team, and they think that you're an idiot, or you think that they're idiots, then it's time to rethink what you're doing. To me, at least, like, I love the team that works with me, and hopefully they like working with me too. That's it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, that's kind of the key element. That's my key element is the network around you, the closest network around you, right? Which is kind of like, frankly, like your wife or somebody else. Like, we spend a lot of time together. So, if you're just acrimonious all day long, it's like, stop doing it. Really, it's not working. If that's good, then they're correlated. And then are you personally, like, are you in the game? Do you want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And if those two things are true, then I'd say keep going. Go for the keep going, and things are going to be good. We've had years where we've grown by 3%, and we've grown by 33%. Okay, same spreadsheet. I know. God damn it! And I couldn't do it. That's it. I couldn't do it. This year was 3%. What do you want me to do? My spreadsheet said I'm going to get 37, but I got 3. Right?
Funny.
Anyway, so because all of us know, the externalities matter. The externalities, there's so many external variables. So like these two variables are not external, right? How you feel, what you're doing in the morning, how you show up all day, and then who you work with. These are not external. You control both these variables reasonably well, right? So if you control these two variables and you love it, and the economics. And there is, I won't bullshit you guys and say like, okay, you know what, the economics don't matter. Yeah, the economics do matter,
Yeah, yeah.
right? When, either from an optics perspective or from a very practical perspective. So that's why having profitable a little early is not actually a bad idea. So you take some money off, so you don't need to have kind of like, you're not like living hand to mouth and then saying that this is the only economic outcome, right?
Yes.
So if you are doing some level of profit distribution or whatever you want to call it, like if you're taking some cash off the table, every year or every couple of years, that reduces the pressure to say like, hey, I got to get this massive payout, really, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a question of personal. Like, look, some people want to fly a private jet, and some people want a simple house. That's a separate argument, a separate vector. Like if you're really like, look, I want a private jet, then well, you need $20 million for a private jet. You're not gonna get a private jet with $2 million, really, right? So that's the maybe more than 20. I don't know what it is now, but that's a separate argument in terms of what's the end goal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a more very, very personal argument, realistically.
Yeah.
It's a different game.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I'm glad to see you having fun, smiling again on a Friday afternoon, talking about your business and living to play the AI-powered world in the next phase. Very exciting to play that game. Thanks for being on the Practical Founders
I want to thank you also.
What's that?
I want to thank you. No, I want to give you a shout out. Like, look, I've done a lot of these podcasts. I've talked to a lot of people. Greg, you've the first time I met you, even 2 years ago, you have a clear viewpoint. You are promoting people. You have an alternative viewpoint rather than the standard dog and pony show that has been promoted. So I am really happy that you're doing this, and I think you're doing everybody a great service. All the entrepreneurs, you're doing a great service, just promoting, at least showcasing an alternative viewpoint, which is kind of what you're fundamentally doing, is showcasing. You're not even promoting. You're like saying like, hey, this is the only way. The narrative is this is the only way to do it, which is kind of the narrative that has been established. And you are showcasing, there is an alternative way. And so thank you so much for doing it. And obviously I love you from the bottom of my heart because you do that. Other than that, you're actually a fun guy too. Separately.
Yeah, we have fun. We have fun. We got to ski together at some point. Here.
Exactly. We got to go.
I tell people that
Park City, bro. You are in Park City.
I get it. Yes. So when you take VC funding, there's two templates. Either you go fast and win big, or you flame out and get stuck. I just wrote a LinkedIn post about majority are getting stuck still from all that excitement a few years ago. But when you don't take it, there's all kinds of ways to do it. You get to make it up. And there isn't one right way. So the subtitle of the Practical Founders podcast, which means reasonably crazy, Practical Founder means reasonably crazy, is here's another way to do it.
Yep.
Right. And you just showed another way to do it. And it isn't for everybody, but you showed a way to do it. So really appreciate you sharing that. And congrats on your success. So it's a lot of fun. We got to ski together for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I'll set some up with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks for watching this week's interview on the Practical Founders podcast. Be sure to like this episode and subscribe to the Practical Founders YouTube channel to keep up with my weekly in-depth interviews with serious software founders who are building valuable software companies without big funding. You can check out my blog, all the podcast episodes, and information about my Practical Founders CEO peer groups at practicalfounders.com. Or message me on LinkedIn if you'd like to connect. See you next week.